Hi, I'm Kelsey, and I'm the alcohol manager at the Harvard General Store.
Hello, I'm Katie, and I'm the social media and marketing manager at the Harvard General Store.
And tonight, we have a special guest.
A very special guest.
This is Sue, our wine lady of the evening.
Hello, everyone. So Sue is here. We're going to taste some rosés tonight. We know it is the middle of September. However, this table says rosé all day, rosé all year. So,
and we're screaming into the comment because we want people to know.
How much we love
excited.
rosé.
Yeah,
about
exactly.
rosé.
So it's a beautiful night. We are ready to have some rosés. We have a few questions first. We're curious how pink wine came to be. We feel like, you have your white wine drinkers, you have your red wine drinkers. And
You
then
get
this,
that. Those grapes, they're different
Yeah.
colors.
Exactly. And then this thing came on the scene and people were like, it's pink. What does that mean?
So the biggest thing about pink wine as a category here is that the color of the wine comes from the contact between the juice inside the grape and the skin. So if you leave the juice in contact with skin from a red grape, depending upon how long you keep those two things together and the nature of the grape that you're using determines the color of the wine. So the winemaker can choose to leave the skin in contact with the juice for a fairly long time, and if it's a deeply colored grape skin, it'll get quite dark. If they're using a lighter colored, thinner skin grape like a Pinot Noir, even if you leave it on the skins for a long time, it will still stay paler in color. So that's how they become pink.
Cool.
Yeah, and is it true there's many different shades of the pink wine?
Absolutely. There's fabulous posters out there that you can Google, and one of my favorite online knowledge queens about wine is Wine Folly.
Wine Folly.
And you can go to winefolly.com, and they actually have a poster of all the different hues, all the different colors that rosé can be, which is really cool.
I love it too because it is one of my favorite colors. I'm wearing my rosé shirt tonight,
There you go.
and so is Sue.
It's okay. I'm gonna drink it.
You have pink cheeks.
Yeah, I have pink cheeks.
Exactly.
I'm wearing my mask all day.
So it's really fun, and I feel like we're curious about why is it trendy and how did it make its way?
Well, yeah, because you hear like blush wines, which aren't, we talk a little bit of the history maybe of how rosé came to be in America, how popular it is, where most of these wines are from. We have a wine from France and from Italy, and why like blush wine might not be rosé or rosato or all the names. What are all the names, Sue?
Right. So I think most people that are my age and older remember Mateus Rosé and Lancer's Rosé, which came over to the country from Portugal in the 70s, and they were fruity and they were in different funky packaging, and they were really quite sweet. And the Mateus bottle actually was a shape that I think probably a lot of people of my parents' generation used to put candles in their rooms in college. So those wines were sort of the first of what most Americans knew of as rosé, and they were called rosé on the label. Paul Masson had something that he called blush, that winery called blush, which was also quite sweet. The Trinchero family created what we all call white Zinfandel.
Yes.
So white Zinfandel is a fruity version of pink wine, not to be confused with rosé, which in general is usually drier. And the Trincheros created white Zinfandel and gave it that name because it was a pink wine made from Zinfandel grapes.
And as usual, my mouth is already watering as we're talking about the rosé.
Me
and
too. Can we drink it?
Yeah, I think we can have our sips here. So we have both in front of us, and it's nice that we are over on this end, so we don't have to wear the masks.
Yes, as you know, Katie and Kelsey, that's us.
Pod.
We're in a pod, so we can have our masks off. Sue, not in our pod. She's at least 6 feet. This table is almost 8 feet long.
Yeah,
so
it's pretty
7.5.
great. And that's what's really great about being able to be out on the patio and being able to, meet with people who know so much about this and just to continue to learn about this stuff while we're just, hiding out and getting through the pandemic.
Absolutely.
It's so much easier to get through the pandemic with rosé.
It's so much
Yes.
easier. Okay, I'm
Oh.
gonna try the Skya first. That's my left one. Or
Yes.
which one you do?
Yep.
Yes,
Sky
me
on
too.
the left, Trian on the right.
That's
Oh.
right.
Sorry, guys. That is like a thing that I always have a problem with, and I just have accepted it.
That's
those,
right.
you had those Ked sneakers that had the left and the right on the.
I swear, I always do it. I go, okay, left.
Yeah.
I like Skaya. Well, we'll talk about what we taste and how we feel about it. But we were talking about
Yeah, where is
Where were we
each
talking about?
from? We were
Right.
talking about
So we were talking
Skaya is a
about
what kinds
rosato.
of what, a risotto.
Yep. So
Yeah.
so in Italy, rosé is called risotto. There's also a rosé or a risotto from the south of Italy that's called cerasuelo. So sometimes you'll see that. But in general, Italian rosés are risotto. So it's just the Italian word for rosé.
And a risotto, can it be what's the effervescent sort of idea?
frizzante.
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 Okay. That's
so,
what I like frizzante.
So Lancers, Riuniti, those are frizzante. But the most famous frizzante wines are actually from the north of Italy, from Piedmont, and that would be Moscato d'Asti and Brachetto.
Yes.
So we can do a whole nother time
Yes.
on
Yes.
Moscato and frizzante.
Is our bougie sardon?
Yeah,
that's
that's a gamay.
Yep. So the
It's a gamay, yeah.
Sardon de Bougie, yes. So that is method ancestral. So it's another way of making the wine sparkling, and it is indeed pink and almost kind of leads into red.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Yeah,
it
it
can be a salmony color, and that's another wine that is sparkling and a little on the fruity side.
Fun. Yeah, you love
that
it.
And
one.
really
That's your
cool.
favorite.
And
yeah.
I love gamay in general. Like it's one of my favorite
Yeah.
grape varietals.
So Sue, you went to the region where Skaya was
I did.
born.
Yes, I
Can
did.
you tell us a little bit about
yeah,
that?
so Skaya is a wine that comes from the Veneto, and the Veneto is a beautiful region that is north of Verona and west of Venice. So I imagine many of our viewers have been to that part of Italy, or if they haven't, they'd love to be transported there. The Veneto is best known for white wines from a growing region they call Soave, and the white wines are blends. So at its core, it's a grape called Garganega. And then the red wines, the most famous of the red wines for fine wine would be Amarone. So most people have heard of Amarone as kind of one of the top steakhouse wines you might see. It's a big, powerful, broody red that can be made in two different main styles. And then for their value drinking wines, they're Valpolicella. So all of the red wines from the Veneto are blends. It's a region that has many different grape varietals. And the three main red grape varietals that you would see in Valpolicella or Amarone are Molinara, Corvina, and Rondinella. And Rondinella is the grape that is in this wine. So this is 100% varietal wine, which is very unusual from this region. And Rondinella is actually the parent of Rondinella is Corvina. So they're genetically linked. And Skaya is a really fun story. So the Castagnetti brothers, there are 4 Castagnetti brothers, and Armando is the one that comes to the U.S. market to help promote his family's wines. And Skaya is a project that the family started reasonably recently, 2006. And the idea behind Skaya was to really stretch what they were doing. Instead of just making traditional wines in their own unique way with their own special soil and site, they wanted to take this very specific soil that they had, which is, we have pictures of it, which we'll show you. So there's this really beautiful chalky soil, and it lends a very specific characteristic to the grape varietals that are grown in that soil. And there's a dialect, a local dialect, and in that local dialect, the word Skaya means crumble. So like you cut a wheel of Parmesan cheese and it breaks into pieces, this soil breaks like that. It's very crumbly, and they call that soil Skaya. And on the neck of the bottle, there's actually a little image that almost looks like flint on the neck of the bottle to try to translate to the customer that this wine is all about the soil in which it's grown.
And it's organic, right?
It is also organic, yes. So no herbicides, no pesticides,
Really
no chemical
cool.
fertilizers, 100% family owned. And they actually make three wines in this Skaya range. But you at the Harvard General Store have carried Skyia Rosato, I think, for 4 or 5 vintages.
It is one of our best-selling wines. It's actually our rosé that we have at dinner services. So Friday and Saturday night, you can come by and have the Skyia. I have a question. Yeah,
I just want to look at the flint.
and I have a question about this glass top. That
Oh,
when
yeah.
the first time I ever drank the Skyia, I felt like so fancy seeing that it wasn't a cork.
Right.
That it was this glass top. So
Yep.
can you tell us about that? What does
Yeah,
that do?
so the glass top is called a
Yeah.
Vinlock closure. I've seen it on some German wines, and there are a few wines that use the Vinlock. It's an alternative to cork, as you're saying, Kelsey. It's also an alternative to the Stelvin closure or the screw cap that
Yes.
you'll see on the second wine we're going to do. And so
more?
the idea
Yes.
behind the glass
Sorry,
closure,
Sue, you don't get any.
the mask.
Yeah.
So the idea behind the glass closure is it preserves the freshness in the wine.
Yes.
So it keeps it nice and fresh and vibrant. And one of the wonderful things about really great dry rosé is its acid balance. So part of the reason you can drink these wines year round, they'll be beautiful at Thanksgiving.
What a good idea with
yep.
such rich, heavy food.
Yes,
That
and it'll
sounds
cut
awesome.
through the fat. You know, that nice bright acidity will cut through the
It
fat
would
in
also
the
go
dish.
great with so many of the dinner
Uh-huh,
items. Yeah,
absolutely.
it's
It
really
can handle a
great.
lot of those autumn flavors, pears and cranberries and
Yeah.
chestnut and sausages that you might put in your stuffing, that kind of thing. So the glass closure preserves the freshness of the wine, and you just plop it back in, just like you did, Katie. And
Yeah.
and if you don't manage to drink the whole bottle in an evening, it will stay there. But I also know a number of people that actually then reuse that. I know there's a lot of wonderful local farms around here, and they use it to make their own vinegars.
Love that,
So you can
shrubs.
put fresh herbs in there.
beautiful.
You can make your own shrubs.
One
So-
of our friends in Harvard, State of the Burbs.
Okay.
She's awesome, and she makes a ton of shrubs from foraging stuff all
Yep,
around,
yep.
like wild grape, all kind, raspberry. It's so
Yeah,
cool.
and the bottle's great for that. So I've known people that
Clean
have
this out.
collected the bottles in order to reuse them,
That's
which of
awesome.
course, organic wine,
And
sustainable,
environmentally-
environmentally friendly.
Exactly.
Reuse, recycle.
It tastes delicious.
It is my favorite, and yeah, I've drank it a lot over the course of the summer, and I don't plan to stop now that it's fall. Like I don't. Yeah, I found this new love for rosé. It's exciting.
It's fun and it's a really cool project, and I think it is unlikely that any of your viewers would likely have 100% varietal rondinella other than this wine. So it's very unique,
Rondinella,
very
no.
different.
Can I say
Yeah.
I could listen to you talk about the grapes and
Speak
the
in
way.
Italian
Oh,
anytime.
I could listen to it all night. It's
we
so
love it.
fun.
Well, all you have to do is go over to Verona and go a little north and go visit Tenuta San Antonio and the Skyia property there. And Armando will take excellent care of you.
Okay.
And
Armando,
yeah.
we're coming.
Yeah, Armando
Kelsey and I are literally
Armando-
coming when we're
yeah.
allowed into
Yeah,
your country.
exactly.
Yeah, Armando
exactly.
is amazing. Yeah, and they have a beautiful tasting room, and the Skyia is something they're very proud of, and very reasonable, affordable, everyday price points.
I think I'm
Awesome.
noticing. I think that the Trienne is getting a little bit jealous.
Yes.
I think that the
It's time to go
Skyia-
to France.
We've sung its praises, and I want you to tell us about this next
Sure.
rosé.
Yeah. So
Another
Trienne.
family wine?
Yes, it's another family-owned winery, but it's actually owned by 2 very famous French vignerons and a
Beautiful.
friend. So Trienne was founded by Jacques Cesse and one of his friends, Aubert de Villaine. So Jacques owns Dujac, and Aubert de Villaine owns Domaine de la Romanie Conti. And these are very famous French wineries, and these gentlemen grew up on their family's estates, and in those parts of France, it's very regimented about what you can grow and how you can make your wine. And both of them have properties that have sort of reached the pinnacle of what you can achieve and are very rare and very expensive wines. And they wanted to branch out. They wanted to be innovative and creative and stretch themselves. And similar to what the Castigliani brothers did with Skyia, they wanted to put their mark on something that was uniquely theirs instead of something that had been in their family for generations. So they went in search of land, and they found this beautiful 45-hectare property down in Provence, and it was predominantly a grape varietal called Cinsault, and they ripped up some of the Cinsault and they planted Grenache and Syrah and Merlot, all of which are also in this wine. But it is at its core, Cinsault is the grape varietal. And the biggest thing that these two very famous men did was they reduced the yields that their grapevines would produce. And so they actually made a lot of changes in the vineyard, and they replanted in order to make sure that the Cinsault doesn't overcrop. And so
To
by
preserve the taste.
so it's like anything, it gets more watered down the more of it there is.
Got it.
So in this instance, they reduced the yields in order to allow the Cinsault to have a chance to really shine and not just be a bulk grape. So this is a rosé from 4 grape varietals, unlike the Skaya, which is single varietal. Mhm.
Yeah, so that's
very
pretty
cool.
rare, I guess,
It's very rare.
for a rosé. I really like the Tran.
Yes.
I mean, I know it's not technically a Provence. Can't
Right,
be
so
called
this-
a Provence rosé
right.
because they use various grapes from other places. Is this true too?
So very good point, Katie. So this wine, when it originally came out, was Provence appellated. There's been some changes in Provence to the rules and regulations, and the wine became so popular, particularly in the sort of mid 2000s when the explosion of French rosé was first coming on the scene, and this wine was being poured in pretty much every hip New York restaurant, New
I
York
was
City
just gonna
restaurant.
say that. Yeah.
So
I'm
when
thinking about New York here.
yeah, so
we
when
normally
this
live in
wine-
New York.
so when this wine was exploding in New York, they were struggling to make enough of the wine to fulfill the demand. So they now have fruit that is coming from outside the AOC of Provence. So the wine is classified as Mediterranean.
Cool. But it tastes just like a classic
It does. Provençal
Provence.
rosé.
Oh my God,
Absolutely.
it's good. It's like sitting. It's like close your eyes. What? We're
Close your eyes,
actually-
everyone.
We're sitting in Provence.
We're tan.
We're tan. Where are we? Where are we?
We have-
Can we go to Marseille?
Yes,
We go to
absolutely.
Marseille, and I'm eating mussels.
And Sue is wearing a white hat.
Yes, a big white hat and giant sunglasses.
Yeah.
And it's like cool, but still the sun's warm. And I'm
Yes.
drinking very cold, very delicious
Yes.
Trian.
And when I take my picture, it's pink, so it looks really beautiful against the white sands.
Absolutely.
You know?
It's rocky there too.
Yeah,
it's
that's
very
rocky.
rocky.
It's really pretty.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't
And
wait
you
to
have
go.
the lavender wafting in the air.
Oh.
Yeah.
And do you think maybe there's some kids drinking rosé as well?
Oh, that's a really
Is
good
this a
point.
thing?
Yeah,
Is this a thing that kids can?
We
have-
googled that there's some kids that drink rosé from a very young age.
Yeah,
in
this
France.
is true. In our puritanical New England world, it's kind
That's
of
right.
hard for us to acknowledge the fact that children might be drinking wine. But yes, I actually read Jacques Pepin's autobiography as a book on tape, and he speaks to this in his autobiography about how his family would actually start by putting just a little tiny bit of the rosé in water just to change its color, and then as they got older, they got
Yeah.
more rosé and less water.
That's smart.
And was it? They didn't have soda. I
Nope.
read that it was just water or wine.
That was it.
And I love it because that's kind of how I live my life.
Yeah, perfect. Me too.
Me too,
actually.
except for coffee.
I'm not
Coffee's
a
in
soda
there.
person.
Oh yeah,
either.
coffee.
Yeah,
Yeah,
coffee.
we're a coffee shop. Yeah.
We have coffee too. So I have a quick question about rosé. So I feel like I drink a lot of rosé, a lot of like all kinds of rosé, but mostly like Provence rosé is very popular in the last 10 years. You know, the Whispering Angels, the I don't know what the
Miraval.
or the
Domainot is.
Domainot.
Yep.
obviously.
Vendôme.
But and that it felt like I'm not in my I currently live in Massachusetts, but when I normally
Yes.
live in Brooklyn and still paying rent, just to make sure everyone still knows.
Ouch.
I feel like I'm not seeing so much of that on the menu anymore, or I am like what's sort of going on? Sue,
Right.
what is going on with rosé
Right.
Like,
Okay.
tell us
in
the
the
truth.
States?
We
Tell
need
us the
to
truth.
know.
We need to know because I feel like it was so big and popular, and now I'm not seeing it as much, or it's not talked about as much, or
Well, and
Yeah.
I think you were talking earlier about some of the wine trends, right?
Yes.
Some of the things. I think, Katie, what was the wine you first started drinking when you first started
Malbec.
drinking? Malbec.
oh,
Right. And
so much Argentinian.
yeah.
And I'm like, I literally was just like, what did I start drinking? Maybe Barefoot, Pinot
Okay,
Grigio.
okay. Well, so you're
The base-
a little younger than I am, but
Yes, I am.
maybe significantly younger than I am. So there have been some trends, and certainly more trends than we're going to talk about in this segment. But there was a huge wine boom with Australian wine, and people were drinking a lot of Shiraz. They were drinking a lot of Australian Chardonnay, and Yellowtail came on the scene in those large, party bottles.
Exactly.
And took over the entire entire category.
Yeah.
So that sort of competes with the Barefoot that you got started with.
Yeah.
And then we had the Sideways movie, which I'm not sure if you were born when the Sideways movie came out.
I saw it.
Okay. So we had
older.
the Sideways movie and Merlot, which had been a big kind of cocktail party wine, fun and easy drinking. That got completely slammed by the Sideways movie, which talked about Pinot Noir and how everybody needed to drink Pinot Noir, particularly from Santa Barbara, et cetera, et cetera. And the sales of Merlot plummeted and the sales of Pinot Noir spiked. And unfortunately, when these things happen, there is a rush to market by all the large conglomerates, the big wine companies, that they're trying to jump on these trends. So they start planting fruit in places that it probably shouldn't be planted.
Not the right terroir.
They start, exactly, not the right terroir, Katie, that's exactly right. And so you get this mass production and this rush to market in order to try to get on the curve, follow the Nielsen scan data. So things that start to be popular in a place like New York City, where you're both been living, it starts as trendy there, the numbers start to catch on, and then the big companies say, we need to jump in on this, and they start mass producing whatever it is that's popular. So in this instance, 2018 into 2019, we had a couple of things that happened. We had a whole bunch of companies from around the world that decided they had to make a rosé, even though rosé had nothing to do with their vineyards or their business model or their traditions or anything else. They just had to make a rosé because rosés are popular. And then we also had something which probably you're seeing a little bit of here in the store too, is those spritzers in the cans.
Oh yeah, huge.
So huge right now.
So huge.
So last summer, those cans really were cutting into the summertime rosé business.
Yes, because it's
So-
almost like they thought, okay, it's in a can, I can drink it in the day. But we're here to tell you that you can drink these in the day as
You
well.
can, you
know?
absolutely can. You can drink them
Yeah.
at brunch.
You can get the brunch.
Absolutely.
All
Very
the
nice.
time.
Fabulous.
Yes.
Rosé all day.
Rosé all day,
all
every
year.
day. So the trend, so it becomes oversaturated.
Exactly.
That's what it sounds
So basically what happened was a number of the 2018 rosés didn't end up pulling through on the store shelves because there were just too many rosés for people to choose from, and not quite as many rosés were being sold because there were more of these cans that were being sold and taking a piece of that pool market, beach market, take it where take it to a sunny location kind of market. And so there ended up being extra rye. And then on top of that, we had the tariffs. So the biggest, most important producer of rosé is France, particularly southern France. And those wines were tariffed 25%.
That's huge. And that's not even what they're talking about, cutting up to 100%.
Right.
Which is still sort of sitting in no man's land right now, correct?
So they just renewed. So our government just renewed the tariffs in August
For 25.
for the 25%, and they did not add any new tariffs. So as of right now, the Italian wines are not included in the tariffs. French wines, German wines, Spanish wines, and then it's under 14% alcohol. And there's some other stipulations in that, but they have doubled down on it, and the tariffs are going to stay in place at their existing levels. So we had some price increases that came around that. So I think the takeaway for me is that when you have rosés that have a true sense of place, that are made from traditional rosé growing regions, that are made by winemakers that take this style of wine seriously, that it's not just a rush to market for them, but it's an important piece of what they do. Those wines are stronger than ever and are selling better than ever. And I think most customers will be incredibly happy to discover new wines from that range. What you want to try to avoid is if you've seen a label for several years and all of a sudden, whoop, here's a rosé. You know, maybe that's fine if it's super cheap and you want to put it in a really cold ice bucket.
Hop in the
Fine.
pool.
And just chug it.
And forget everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can tell as we're drinking these wines, like you can tell that this is what they do, and that there was a reason for this, and that it makes sense for them to create this.
It's a deliberative process. For
Yes.
sure.
And I love that they're both such family oriented, like breaking from their heritage a little bit to
Yep.
try something new and exciting, even within sort of their modern winemaking ways. It's really cool.
Passion project.
Absolutely.
That's what these.
Absolutely.
They're
Absolutely.
really, really delicious.
They're awesome.
I love these
I
wines.
think you have to drink some now.
Yeah, am I allowed to?
Yeah,
Okay,
you
I'll
are.
pa- I'll
Here,
pass.
let us pass. We'll do it. Oh yeah. Good idea.
Here we go.
You pour for Sue.
Of course.
Okay. Well. While we are tasting and finishing up here, do you have any other like?
I know. I'm
Fun
thinking,
rosé
what other
questions?
questions do I have about rosé? I mean, I read. Oh, and the bell. And the
For
bell
whom
has
bell
struck.
toll- Yeah, for whom the bell tolls.
That means we're done. No, I'm kidding.
Bye.
There's my laugh. This guy.
We're gonna turn into pumpkins, and that's it.
But that's part of the charm of coming to a town like Harvard. If you're not lucky enough to live here, and you're just going to come for a visit, everything's outside. The staff is very responsible and paying keen attention to all of the guidelines around the coronavirus. It's safe to come. The food is fabulous. The wine selection's great, and they also have beer.
We do.
And
Yes, we
inside
do.
they sell cocktail kits, which are fabulous. If you haven't seen that video, I'm plugging it. The
Yes.
Kelsey and Katie show is not to be missed.
Thank
I
you.
think the greatest honor is that Sue is plugging our show while on our show.
Yeah, there we go.
I
That's
feel
what
like
you're supposed to do, right? Is that how that works?
I feel like we've already made it.
I know.
Like you were saying how there's a big trend and then all the companies come. I think tonight we will be setting the trend for the entire country.
I think so too.
Absolutely.
And I think that,
It's small town family living.
yes.
Drinking small town family living from across the globe.
There you
And
go.
it's
cool.
so, I'm feeling tonight is that I'm so thankful that it's still kind of warm out.
I know.
So we're able to enjoy this rosé and soak up the end of summer.
But we don't have mosquitoes.
no
So
mosquitoes.
you can come
It's-
and eat
It's almost the
out
perfect.
here in the patio,
Yes.
mosquito free. How
Exactly.
fabulous is that?
Friday and
It's so
Saturday
great.
nights, and just so you know, you're the first people to see. I don't know if you can see behind us, but we've just put in 2 new fire pits. So
to keep you warm while you come here and dine with us
And
in
drink
the
rosé.
fall, in the beautiful fall.
Oh,
yeah.
natural.
So
That's right.
make sure that you make your reservation. Go online to harvardgeneralstore.com and you'll see right at the top, make a reservation here.
yeah, and we're also open for breakfast and lunch. Breakfast on the
brunch on
weekends and
Sunday.
brunch. Oh, we're open for so many things. Just go online. I promise.
Yes.
We'll explain it all online. But for now, because we're half a bottle of wine in,
I know, we really are, aren't we?
yeah, it's fun.
And
Cheers.
Sue's like,
Cheers,
I'm only
Sue.
Cheers,
joking.
everybody.
Cheers,
Thanks for
everyone.
joining
Cheers to
us.
all
Thank
of
you,
you.
Sue. This was so
This is an
much
empty
fun.
glass, and I say cheers.
You can share mine.
No
Social
sharing.
distancing.
Yes,
All right.
thank you guys so much.
Thanks
And
for
make sure
joining.
too, these are both in our package store.
Skaya and Tran. We will put a link below. Do you think we know how to do that?